Why do two people with the same salary end up in completely different places 10 years later? One owns a paid-off home and a safety cushion. The other has credit card debt and is afraid to open the banking app. Same salary, same city, same age, same education. The difference is not in income. The difference is in how the brain handles money. The uncomfortable part of this topic is that almost nobody sees it clearly. The wealthy think they just got lucky. The broke think the wealthy just got lucky. But the reality is that your relationship with money is a set of mental habits. They can be described, measured, and changed. This is not magic. This is a skill. And this skill is not learned in financial literacy courses, not in goal-setting seminars. It is learned from the inside, by rewriting the scripts your brain developed before you ever held money in your hand. Today, what the data says about the psychology of money, and why the thinking of the wealthy differs from the thinking of the broke, not in intelligence and not in luck, but in very specific mental settings. The main mistake in conversations about money is treating it like luck or talent. The science of the last 20 years says something quite different. Financial behavior is behavior, and behavior can be trained. In 2011, the Journal of Financial Therapy published a study with 422 participants. Researchers tested whether your relationship with money can be described as a set of repeating beliefs. It turned out it can. From 72 financial attitudes, four stable patterns emerged. They were called money scripts. And of those four, only one is connected to real well-being. The other three are not. Let's walk through them. The first script is money avoidance. A person with this script believes money is something dirty, that the wealthy are bad, that wanting more is shameful, that there is something noble in modesty and lack. On a conscious level, they may want to earn more. On a deep level, they push money away. Any raise gets spent. Any savings cause discomfort. And importantly, this script correlates with lower income and lower net worth. The second script is money worship. Here the person believes money will solve everything. More money equals more happiness. More money equals fewer problems. This script is associated with compulsive hoarding, unreasonable risk-taking, working without limits, and shopping addiction. Paradox: the one who believes money solves everything usually spends it the fastest. Because for them, money is an emotional regulator, not a tool. The third script is money as status. What I have equals what I'm worth. What my neighbor has is what I have to beat. This script correlates with younger age, lower education, and lower net worth. Logical. If money is needed to prove something to someone, it goes into display, not into savings. And the fourth script is money vigilance. The only one connected to real well-being. Here the person thinks it's important to know where the money goes. That an emergency fund is hygiene, not paranoia. That talking about money is normal, hiding debts is not. Money-vigilant people take consumer loans less often and save regularly more often. The main point here is not to take a test and label yourself. The main point is that 3 of the 4 typical relationships to money block accumulation. And nobody chooses their script consciously. It was chosen by parents, by the atmosphere at home, by the first store where you heard, "We can't afford this." The script can be changed, but first, you have to see it. The next layer is where a person believes their money comes from. In psychology, there is a concept called locus of control. Internal locus: I believe my results mostly depend on my actions. External locus: I believe my results mostly depend on luck, environment, my boss, the economy, the government. Any combination is possible, but one of the poles usually dominates. An Australian study based on a long-term household panel, a longitudinal study where the same people are surveyed for years, showed a stable pattern. People with a dominant internal locus of control have higher savings, higher long-term planning, and higher capacity for rational financial decisions. A Dutch 8-wave study that tracked the same households from 2005 to 2017 found the same. Internal locus does not mean believing you are all-powerful. It means, I focus on what is in my zone of influence. Currency rates, not in the zone. The boss's decision, not in the zone. What I do with my paycheck, in the zone. What I learn, in the zone. How much I save, in the zone. The paradox is that the belief itself is a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you believe results depend on you, you make more attempts. More attempts give you more data. More data lets you learn faster. Faster learning produces real results. And those results confirm, yes, it does depend on you. The cycle closes. With external locus, the cycle closes the other way. If results don't depend on me, why try? If I don't try, there are no results. If there are no results, clearly, it doesn't depend on me. Now to one of the most uncomfortable findings of the last 2 decades. Poverty is not just little money. Poverty is a different mode of brain operation. In 2013, a series of experiments was published in the journal Science. Researchers gave standard intelligence tests to 2 groups of people. Nothing special at first. Then each group was told a financial scenario. For example, your car needs urgent repair, the cost is so much. Half the group was told, the repair costs $150. The other half, $1,500. After this, the test was repeated. For people with high income, there was no difference. Their brain handled both numbers easily. For people with low income, the larger number temporarily ate up cognitive capacity by about 13 IQ points. That's the difference between above average and below average. It doesn't mean they got dumber. It means part of the brain was busy solving a financial problem, leaving no resources for other tasks. Then the same hypothesis was tested on Indian sugarcane farmers. They have a particular money cycle. Most of their income arrives once a year, after harvest. Before harvest, sharp scarcity. After, relative abundance. The same people were tested 2 months before payday and 2 months after. The same people showed a 10 IQ point difference. Before money, the brain was busy with survival. After, it was free. Researchers called this the bandwidth effect. Like a computer, the brain has a limited amount of working memory. If most of it is occupied solving, how do I make it to payday, there is nothing left for strategic thinking, investing, long-term projects. This explains why the advice, just think about the future, doesn't work on people in financial stress. Their brain physically cannot think about the future. Not because they are weak or lazy, but because their compute power is fully booked solving the present. The conclusion is paradoxical. For a person to start thinking like the wealthy, they first need to free up their head from thoughts about money. That means automating routine, simplifying decisions, putting regular transfers on autopay, not in order to save up, but in order to free bandwidth and start thinking longer. Here a logical question. Why is the brain wired by default to prefer today's pleasure over tomorrow's gain? Why aren't we born with money vigilance? The answer is in how our species developed. 95% of human brain history is not banks and not paychecks. It is hunter-gatherers. Small groups. Every day, find food or die. Resources unpredictable. Long-term future doesn't exist. There is today and at most a season. And in this environment, the psyche that grabbed immediately survived. The one that waited for berries to ripen perfectly got eaten. This is called temporal discounting. The further into the future, the less it is valued. A standard experiment. Give people a choice, $100 now or $120 in a month. Most pick 100 now. Even though 20% return in a month is a financial deal no bank in the world offers. But the brain reads in a month as almost never. In 2022, Nature Human Behavior published a study with 13,629 participants from 61 countries. The main finding: the level of inequality and economic instability correlates with temporal discounting more strongly than individual income. The more unstable the environment, the harder the brain shrinks to today. This is not a bug. It is an adaptation. When tomorrow may not arrive, the one who lives by today is evolutionarily favored. The problem is that the modern economy is built the opposite way. Here, the one who can wait wins. Savings, a bet on the future. Investments, a bet on the future. Education, a bet on the future. And this whole world conflicts with the brain's base setting of grab now. This knowledge is the most important in this whole topic. Not, I am weak because I cannot save. But, I am normal. My brain runs the program of 2,000 generations of hunter-gatherers. To accumulate, I need to outsmart this program, not blame it. The Japanese figured this out more than a century ago. In 1904, a household budget system appeared, called Kakeibo. Literally, household account book. The system is not complicated. It's a simple notebook where you write down each expense by hand. Each one. Before buying, you ask yourself 4 questions. Can I do without this? Do I really have money for it? Will I actually use it? And how will I feel after the purchase? In Japan, after the Second World War, this practice became habit in millions of families. The average Japanese family for decades saved about 20% of their income, one of the highest rates in the developed world. The psychological mechanism here is not about discipline. It is about the fact that writing makes money visible. When money is visible, the brain switches on the rational part. When money is invisible, the emotional part runs. The credit card was invented exactly to make money invisible and shift decisions to emotion. That is why, statistically, people who pay in cash spend less on the same items. The pain of each transaction triggers critical thinking. The conclusion is not to switch to cash. The conclusion is that manual tracking is the cheapest and most effective way to shift decisions from emotion to data. For a long time, the central character in popular success books was the marshmallow test. A child sits, in front of him is one marshmallow. He is told, "Wait 15 minutes, get 2. Those who waited, the story went, achieved more later in life. This story was repeated in every self-improvement book. Willpower, delayed gratification. Learn it as a child, be a successful adult. In 2018, a major study came out that completely rewrote this story. Researchers took not 90 children, like the original, but 900, a much more diverse sample, and they looked at adult outcomes. A correlation was found, but half as strong as previously reported. And when researchers controlled for family income, parental education, and home environment, the correlation shrank by another 2/3 and almost disappeared. What this means? Not kids who can wait become successful, but kids who grow up in stable families with predictable resources can wait and also become successful because a predictable environment produces both outcomes. Willpower is not the root. It is the symptom. The wealthy think longer not because they have more willpower. They think longer because they grew up or moved into environments where the future is predictable. And when the future is predictable, the brain is not afraid to plan it. The good news is that this predictability can be built for yourself. Through automation, through an emergency fund, through avoiding variable rate debt. The more stable your personal financial environment, the better your long-term thinking works. This is not about character. It is about infrastructure around you. Another thing that distinguishes the financial thinking of the wealthy from the rest. In 1979, prospect theory was published. For this work, one of the authors, psychologist Daniel Kahneman, received the Nobel Prize in Economics in 2002. The main conclusion of the theory: losses feel about twice as painful as equivalent gains. Losing $1,000 feels emotionally like not getting $2,000. This explains why people sell stocks during a crash and don't sell during a rally, why they stay in bad jobs for years, why they fear investing but don't fear spending, because spending feels like leaving now, not lost. The wealthy think differently not because they don't feel the pain of losses. They feel it. They have just learned to recalculate risks in neutral numbers, not in emotion. They ask, what is the probability? What is the potential return? What is the maximum drawdown? Not, what will I feel if I lose? This is calculation, not sensation. This is learned. And it is learned through two things. First, data. When you see long-term market charts, you understand that 20% drawdowns are normal, not catastrophic. Second, practice on small amounts. The more experience you have with losses that destroyed nothing in your life, the calmer you handle them in the future. And the last important concept, financial self-efficacy. This is the belief that you can handle financial tasks. Sit down and build a budget. Figure out how to open an investment account. Talk to the bank about refinancing. This concept was introduced back in the 1970s in social cognitive theory. The idea is simple. What you believe about your ability to do something affects whether you do it at all, and the quality of how you do it. In the context of money, this works directly. Studies show people with high financial self-efficacy save more, invest more often, take consumer loans less often, diversify more often. Not because they are smarter, because they believe they can figure it out. And so they sit down and figure it out. Self-efficacy is not built from affirmations. It is built from small wins. Tracked expenses for a week, a win. Opened a savings account in 15 minutes, a win. Raised the savings rate from 5 to 7%, a win. Each such episode gives the brain feedback. I can do things with money. And this belief carries to the next action. The cycle works both ways. Low self-efficacy plus bad experience produces even lower self-efficacy. And the person avoids financial decisions for life, not because they are dumb, but because they fear feeling dumb again. Putting it together, the psychology of the wealthy is not one setting, but 5 intertwined. First, recognize your money script. Money for you is what? Dirt, salvation, status, or tool. You can see it from what you do when extra cash shows up. Spend because money corrupts. Avoidance. Spend because life is short. Worship. Spend on what others see. Status. Safe to know where it goes. Vigilance. The goal is to rewrite the first 3 into the 4th. This is done through attention, not willpower. Each time you catch yourself in an old script, name it and ask, what would a money-vigilant person do here? Second, shift the locus of control inward, not to whether the world is fair or unfair, to what is in your zone of influence. Make a list of 10 things in your finances you can affect and 10 you can't. Direct energy only to the first list. Third, reduce the load on your brain. Free up bandwidth. That means automate everything that can be automated. A regular transfer to savings on payday. Autopay on recurring bills. Limits on the card for categories where you usually lose control. The fewer decisions you make by hand, the more cognitive power frees up for strategic thinking. Fourth, make money visible. Modern Kakeibo is a banking app that breaks expenses into categories, or a simple spreadsheet you fill in once a week. Not for control, for sight. When money is visible, the brain runs rational. When invisible, emotional. Fifth, build self-efficacy through small wins. One small financial action per week that previously seemed hard. Open an account. Compare mortgage rates. Raise savings contributions by 1%. Read one article about investing. Each such action, a brick of belief that you can. All 5, learnable. All 5, measured by behavior, not by self-perception. Together they produce what is called financial thinking, not luck, not talent, not got lucky, but a concrete skill of managing money and yourself at the same time. The thought worth coming back to. When you look at the difference between the thinking of the wealthy and the rest, it is almost never about intelligence and almost never about money at the start. It is about a set of mental habits that are learned. Money scripts can be rewritten. Locus of control shifts with practice. Bandwidth is freed by automation. Self-efficacy grows from small wins. And this is the most freeing part. You don't need to be a special person. You don't need to be born with a different brain. You don't need to wait for luck. The psychology of money is a set of dials you can turn yourself. This is one of those cases where science and practice meet at the same point. Money is behavior. Behavior is habit. Habit is something that changes. If this topic was useful, the channel has more breakdowns of how productivity, thinking, and effectiveness work, grounded in research. Subscribe to get new methods that actually work and are backed by data.